Alright, heathens, let's geek out. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem. They destroyed the palace of the Jewish monarchs, they desecrated Solomon's temple, and they gouged out the eyes of the king and then took him off in chains to Babylon. Oh yeah, they also murdered his 2 sons. Rough. And it's against this backdrop that the Book of Daniel is written. But scholars have dated the Book of Daniel to 164 BCE. So the setting is 6th century BCE, but the actual date it was written is 2nd century BCE. Now, if you'll remember, the Book of Daniel is the prototype for apocalyptic literature. And we begin to see this trend occur in apocalypses. It's written much after the fact, but in the form of prophecy, and then it's attributed to a man of authority from the past. The Book of Revelation is actually unique because the author just identifies himself as John, the companion in suffering and kingdom of Christ. But let's back up for a second. So the Book of Daniel is dated to 164 BCE. What's interesting about this is that it's right in the middle of the Maccabean revolts. Prior to the revolts, the Jews had been under the power of Antiochus. He was particularly nasty to them. He did not allow them to practice any Jewish customs, and he desecrated the temple. Many Jews refused to compromise their beliefs, and so they started a war against Antiochus. The Book of Daniel is believed to have been written in order to undergird a renewed sense of nationalism while they are at war, and also to sort of intensify and underline their experience, because it's very reminiscent of the captivity in Babylon. We won't get too much into the symbolism of Daniel now, but for the time being, it's really just important to know that the author of Revelation leans really heavily on the symbolism in Daniel. The beasts that are in Daniel are believed to be nations, and the horns on the beasts are believed to be the leaders of those nations, and we will see that come up in the Book of Revelation, so just put a pin in that. Now, apocalyptic literature is a byproduct of apocalyptic theology. So what is that? The Jews believed that they were God's chosen people, and because of this they had a covenant with God. They were to keep his laws, and he was to protect them and make them prosper. However, as we've seen, the Jews were having a pretty rough go of it historically. There were famines, droughts, wars, lots of captivity, lots of exile. And so the Jewish thinkers had to come up with a reason why God was allowing all of this to happen when they were doing their best to keep his law. And so a theology began to emerge that there were evil forces that were counter to God running rampant on earth, and for whatever reason, God was allowing it. But in short order, he would be sending a Messiah, or Messiahs, that would conquer these forces, bring judgment to the earth, and set up God's kingdom. And this is important because Jesus was an apocalypticist. And the theology in Revelation echoes Jesus' teachings.